Hi there. Welcome to the Ohio Department of Youth Services podcast, The Future in Focus. I'm your host, Chaba Sukos. Thanks for joining us here for episode 8 of our journey through juvenile justice. This discussion will highlight the group responsible for the largest spectrum with DYS, the Division of Community-Based Innovations and Solutions. Its responsibilities start at the front end of the justice system with community programs to keep youths out of trouble and extend all the way to supporting a youth in their return to the community while on parole. Joining me today are divisional leaders with plenty of experience and insight from the front line to statewide oversight. They include Division's Deputy Director, Mike Garrett, Bureau Chief of Community Facilities, Jody Slagle, and Bureau Chief of Community Reinvestment, Corey Shreve. Everybody, welcome.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Appreciate you all being here. So, before we get into this division that is and explore the space of community-based innovations and solutions, let's learn a little bit about yourselves in terms of what you did before you did your current roles and what your current roles entail right now. Mike, we'll start with you.
I started working in this field 26 years ago. I started with Montgomery County Juvenile Court. I started as a youth specialist. At the time, I didn't really know what that job was. Turns out it's a correctional officer, correctional type work. So that was a shock. So I went to youth specialist, to receiving specialist, to court services officer, and then I did a period of time as a probation officer, and then I became an intensive probation officer. While I was with probation, I got into leadership, so I became a supervisor for probation. Then I oversaw and was a program manager for all the programming aspect of the probation department and their treatment courts, specifically working with mentors and linking young people with mentors on the front end while they're in services. After that, I was the director of Center for Adolescent Services. Many might know it's where DYS actually has our female population. It's a community correctional facility.
We'll get to that later for sure. Yeah.
That's when I came to DYS. I've been with DYS for about 5 years now. I started as an OYAS administrator, then I was a director of the training academy, and I've been here the deputy director of the division for about 2 years now.
And your current role, what does that all entail?
We have a wide range of things we work on, and Corey and Jody will kind of talk about their respective areas, being community reinvestment and community facilities, but we also have all of our reentry and our parole services. We go from really focusing on the front end, getting kids linked with appropriate services so they don't fall and come deeper into the system, right to running community correctional facilities, all the way to parole and parole services. The reentry component, really interesting because it starts when kids come into our facilities, and then our parole team works in tandem with reentry to make sure that appropriate case planning takes place so that the necessary resources are available for kids when they return.
Got it. Jody, we'll follow up with you.
So I have 23 years with the Department of Youth Services, and I started out as a social worker in our facility. So half of my career has been in facilities. So I started as a social worker and then eventually made it to assistant to the superintendent. Then the director at the time had asked me to be the liaison between the federal monitors and the director. So I came down to central office. Then I was at Title 4E, Revenue Enhancement Administrator, and then I've been in this position.
And as the leader of CCFs or community facilities, what does that entail?
So we have 11 community correctional facilities. 9 are secured, 2 are non-secured. They are an alternative sanction for juvenile judges. Instead of committing them to the department, they're able to place youth in a community correctional facility if they have a suspended commitment, a felony adjudication, and a suspended commitment to the department.
Corey, close it out with you.
Well, I started in juvenile justice in 2000. I started as a county summer employee back in Belmont County. Friends of mine went to the water department, went to the health department. They put me at the Sargus Juvenile Center, which was probably appropriate. So I started there in 2000, and as I worked through the summers and got my degree, I graduated in 2004, and I started there as a shift supervisor. Did that for several years, and then I became the executive director in 2007. My journey brought me to Columbus, to the Department of Youth Services in 2012, where I started working on Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention Act as a compliance monitor. And then I got promoted to do compliance and monitor the local juvenile courts and their detention programs. And then I became the state JDI administrator, where I was heavily involved in juvenile justice reform throughout Ohio. And then several years ago got promoted to the Bureau Chief of Community Reinvestment.
That leads us back to you, since Mike kind of gave us the overview of what the division does, leading from one aspect to the other, from the front end all the way to the back. Investing in communities. How does DYS do that, Corey?
So we invest in a number of different ways. One is a fiscal investment. So what we do, and my team specifically oversees oversees the Reclaim Ohio grant and the Youth Services grant. We like to call it a companion grant, but Reclaim grant, it's our variable-based grant. And then we have our Youth Services grant, which is based on population in Ohio. And this is our main funding mechanism where several $1 million go out to juvenile courts. So in the Reclaim grant, there's about $32.6 million that goes out. And the Youth Services grant, there's about $16.6 million that goes out annually. Youth Services grant is stabilized funding that allows local juvenile courts to establish a base, and then Reclaim is the variable grant that we have. And what that does is allows us to incentivize courts to create community-based options where kids can be treated in their communities in lieu of commitment to DYS or a CCF. So that's kind of the foundation for what we do. But then we also have other areas where we work on new and innovative ways to service kids. So we have competitive Reclaim, which is exactly how it sounds. It's a competitive-based system where we put grant opportunities out throughout the year and allow courts to focus on specific categories. That overall is our main function, is to provide technical assistance around programs and interventions, evidence-based programs and interventions that serve kids locally in their community.
I know it's very customized to fit the needs of each respective community and whatnot, but as an example, or some examples, what kind of programs are these courts utilizing or trying to bring up to help youth?
One of our main programs and one of the focus points over the last several years has been diversion. We look at diversion programs where we can serve kids on the front end before they actually get involved in the juvenile justice system. One of those programs that accompanies that is the development of community-based resource and assessment centers. These community-based resource and assessment centers act as the barrier to the juvenile justice system. These are places where kids can go and receive front-end services before they ever have an interaction with a juvenile court judge, or before they have formal court involvement, or before a charge is filed. So we try to start first with kids' basic needs, families' basic needs. So there can be resources for utility services. We can link them with a local food bank. We could provide them clothes or a place to shower, or different things that they need just to make sure there's stability in their home and in their life so they can go to school and they can do the things they need to do. Some of the other things that we fund and focus on are evidence-based approaches. Through that is probation. We really focus on evidence-based techniques like motivational interviewing, carry guide. We brought Roca Impact Institute in to teach the Rewire 7 curriculum to our staff and community members. So we're always trying to think of new innovative ways to work with kids. We have restitution programs. One of the things we did over the last several years was look at how we can fund and support pro-social activities that are accompanied to an evidence-based approach. When I'm doing something positive, there's usually some type of positive sanction or some type of positive reward. We wanted the same for kids. We know when we incentivize them to do well, they do well. Like, I'm incentivized for certain things in my own life, right? Probably similar to everybody here. So this was one opportunity that we partner with local courts to do. And some of those incentives could be things like CrossFit. It could be something like music. It could be some educational or vocational skill that someone might want to learn. Art classes, different things like that. We have a wide array of programs. We actually funded over 700 programs last year, and we had over 90,000 program admissions.
Wow.
A kid can be involved in more than one program throughout that encounter with the justice system or the prevention of entering the justice system.
Now, I know kids make mistakes. They obviously takes a little while for them to learn at times. You mentioned diversion. On the back end of that, sometimes kids have to go the probation route in that way. How does Ohio probation transformation and what as you kind of were leading to with the description of diversion, how does that help these counties limit the escalation of things for youth coming up?
Yeah, the most commonly used disposition in the nation, not only in Ohio, is probation. So one of the keys and pillars to probation transformation is actually diverting kids that need diverted first. So we want to divert to create a smaller group of kids for probation. So when we're really thinking about manageable caseloads, we're thinking 8 to 12 kids per probation officer. These are going to be your higher level need, high risk youth. So we want them to build a rapport with these kids. We want them to be able to build a rapport with their families. We want them to be able to use strength-based case planning to meet the needs of these youth and families to keep them from further penetration into the justice system. Things that I mentioned earlier, like carry guides or motivational interviewing or the Roca Rewire curriculum, are all tools that we want to equip our local probation departments with so they can better serve youth and families. We really moved away from, and we want to move away from, control model of probation, and we want to move towards an assistance model. What we know about the adolescent brain and brain development is they need positive incentives. They need to have a goal in sight, and our goal is to make them successful in society, not punish them, but it is to grow them and give them the skills they need to succeed later on in life.
I know a big part of that is just identifying their strengths, understanding what they want to do, what they're good at, and being able to really harness that and drive them in that direction toward that positive path in that way.
Yeah, a lot of things are pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to overcomplicate certain things. It's about building a relationship. It's about understanding what their strengths are and what they want to do and help them achieve those goals.
Jody, I know as a person who has learned many a lesson, it takes a while sometimes for it to sink in. For those youths that haven't learned their lesson at the county level, they often graduate to the regional level, which is where the correctional facilities kick in that way. I know you kind of gave an overview of, what all they are in that sense. So what is happening within these facilities themselves?
The point is to be able to keep the kids close to home, so they're within that community, to allow reentry to be a little bit more successful. And they provide kids with different treatment depending on what facility you go to. So we have some that do substance abuse, some that do PSB work, which is problematic sexual behavior treatment. But they all have education, they do individual and group therapy. And one thing that is really successful with the community correctional facilities are their family treatment, and the families have to participate with the kids. They also do off grounds as they get through their program towards the end of their stay. They then put what they've learned while they've been there in practice with their family, and they gradually go back into the community. And it's a great way for them to practice and then come back into the facility and work with their therapist and kind of work out the kinks if there's something that didn't work right or whatnot.
I know behavior is a big part of it in terms of trying to correct and adjust that in that way. Aside from that, is there anything else we're really trying to instill, or whether it's following along with Corey's idea of just giving them something to draw toward or something positive to really motivate them in that way? There's a lot of programs, there's a lot of enrichment that we're trying to instill, within their time there.
One of the things that the CCFs do well is also engaging their community and community partners, bringing them in and showing them pro-social behaviors and pro-social activities that they can do on the outside. I know Corey just mentioned CrossFit, and that's something new that we started with one of our community correctional facilities up in Bowling Green. We have a CrossFit program there, and the kids then get released and then work on that when they get back into the community, and it's been really successful, and the kids love it. Just showing them other ways to do things and what's out there, what's available for them.
The interesting thing about your space is it can go one of two ways. It can be a deterrent, or to keep youth from working their way to the state level, ending up at a full DYS facility in that way. But then it could also be used as a transition, for those youth who need maybe more of an adjustment to life beyond, an incarcerated setting, which I know we're tapping into more and more these days, Mike. I know this year we had a very innovative program and partnership that we started with one of those community correctional facilities and a Dayton area nonprofit. Tell me about it.
Jody and the CCF teams have done a really good job looking at ways they can provide opportunities for young people leaving DYS. Specifically, we call it step down. And it's not necessarily that it's a step down from secure care, because they still are in a secure correctional environment. The difference is we find opportunities to collaborate with providers locally. In some instances, they go off grounds to work. In other instances, they go off grounds for educational opportunities. But this one that you're speaking about is with Miami Valley Juvenile Rehabilitation Center, and it's a partnership with the Trades Institute that is located at the Emerge Center. They have full vocational opportunities for young people. They can earn certificates in HVAC, plumbing, and they hope to be adding a couple more vocations over the next 2 years. The goal is youth will graduate from high school with our Buckeye United education team, and then once they've graduated, they're now eligible to step down to the Trades Institute. They go through an application process and kind of a rigorous review of what the expectations are going to be, because we really want to make sure it's a good fit. Then we have to collaborate with the judges and the jurists that place them at DYS. We have to kind of talk with them about what the step down is, what degree or what education the young person is going to be pursuing. Then we work with that judge for approval for that youth to be stepped down to Miami Valley Juvenile Rehab Center. They live at the facility for the most part, but daily they leave to participate in trades programming. We just had 2 young men graduate the program and complete their HVAC certificate program. And we have 2 more getting ready to graduate here in the next couple weeks.
For somebody who likes to really push the boundaries, what does this mean to you? Something like this where, you're opening up possibilities not only for young people, but then also the agency in terms of being able to impact more and more young people in that way.
My father grew up in the trades. Like, he was a tradesman. So knowing the demand for that field, knowing how important and how critically important those jobs and those professions are, but more importantly, we have an obligation to provide young people with the skills and the credentials necessary to go out and seek gainful, meaningful employment when they leave our care. Contrary to what folks believe, Department of Youth Services, the average age when a kid leaves, they're actually 18 and a half. The average age on parole is 19 and a half. So we have an opportunity to really put young people in a position to find alternatives. And oftentimes it's real easy to tell a kid or tell them, hey, do X, Y, and Z and everything's going to work out great. But how do you show them? How do you walk that journey with them? So for me personally, I love seeing young people achieve those milestones. But more importantly, I love looking around and seeing 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 staff that all were involved at a touch point to make that possible. We just had a young person that we helped enroll into Youngstown State University. Now, that might seem like, well, yeah, kids do that, right? But when a young person needed support and reached out to their reentry team and reached out to their parole team, and we didn't just give them a business card and tell them where to go, we went and we walked that journey with them. That is how we're getting young people to the finish line. That's how we're getting them to a spot where they can see that there is great opportunity out there for them with the appropriate support and the appropriate resources. They don't always know how to tap into it. And that's where it's so critically important that the work we're doing right now on the front end and bringing people around, really taking a village approach to helping young people reintegrate.
As a jumping off point from there, you all have lived it, front end, back end, in the middle in that way. You touched upon some points right there that are indicative of understanding what all is needed to help these young people on that transition to a positive, more fulfilling life in that way. Among anything that has or hasn't been mentioned, preferably hasn't, what stands out in terms of being able to enable these youth and them, whether it's skill sets, whether it's the resources, the support, what stands out in terms of being able to, it's obviously it's a case by case, but just generally speaking from your experiences.
So every young person's case is unique to their situation. Sure. The most important aspect of that is us really finding out and engaging the young person in their process. They have to be a participant in this process. It can't be us telling a person or telling a family or telling a young person, hey, go do X, Y, and Z. But maybe have a conversation and find out, all right, what things are important to you? Because we might be running something down that this kid is not interested in at all. But the other piece, Corey kind of mentioned it, we really have to look at basic needs. If the basic needs aren't met for a kid, if the basic needs aren't in place, trying to push them back out into a community environment without the basics being taken care of, oftentimes it is a recipe for a young person to be in a spot where they make bad decisions. Not because they want to, but because their circumstances or situation really gave them no other alternative. So first and foremost, take care of the basics. And parole has done that in a number of different ways. We touched on the Trades Institute, but we also have the Parent Guardian Liaison position that we're standing up. But then the team has also done a lot of work with the Transitional Services Plan, and specifically that's for young people getting ready to age out of our system. That work is critically important because once they turn 21, we don't have the means to be able to support them past that. Well, with this implementation, we do now, and we're really excited about that. We also are implementing and really getting back to the basics for pre-release planning, parole, reentry, pre-release staffing. And what this staffing does is it really gets all the players to the table, parent, youth, their treatment team at the facility, and they really talk about what makes the most sense from a reentry perspective and take a very restorative approach at reentry and making sure everyone knows what their role is in that reentry process, whether it be their care coordinator with Ohio Rise or whether it be their parole officer. Everyone along the way knows what their role is in that case plan. So those staffings are critically important, and it's led to us being able to link kids with resources through some community partners. We've identified Project Lift as a great partner for reentry up in the Cleveland area. The last I checked, they had about 32 kids that were engaged. They engage pre-release, and then they can continue those services and those counseling services and mentoring services post-release. We also have a great collaboration going with the Ohio Public Defender's Office. They have a case manager position that they've created in Southern Ohio. That case manager works in conjunction with our reentry and our parole team to also help link the youth with resources when they leave. And one of the other great innovations is getting some therapeutic services to the home. The collaboration with Buckeye Ranch and completing and participating in MST services or multi anti-systemic therapy services. It's a home-based resource. They can come to the house and they can participate in counseling sessions, and it's really giving those additional supports for kids. Those are some of the innovations, but all of them are connected. I really think it's important to remember that the work that we do on the community side is just as much about relationships at all phases. All phases of this process, relationships are important, whether it be with us as a state agency and our community or our grassroots partners or our other county partners, or whether it be, Corey and his shop standing up new programs in counties. It's all driven off that relationship. Jody and her team, we spoke on the CCF piece, but there's a lot that they do with detention centers. They complete monitoring visits for Ohio Administrative Code compliance. They also do the same thing for our CCFs. So we are out in facilities every day building relationships, and those relationships really open the door for us to do meaningful work with young people across the entire continuum.
Yeah, the warm handoffs are crucial, whether it's on the front end, in the middle, especially as we're trying to lead somebody back in the community on their own. Absolutely. So I know Mike touched upon a lot of the things that we're proud of, that we've built upon and are building momentum with as we thrive in 25 here. From a community reinvestment standpoint or correctional facility or community facility standpoint, what are we proud of that we've done in 25 to date?
We are facilitators. Our local juvenile court partners are the ones who are achieving things. They're the ones working directly with the youth and families on the front end. One of the things I'm very proud of our team, in collaboration with the local juvenile court partners, is expanding our reach with assessment centers. We are now up to 23 resource and assessment centers in Ohio. We lead the nation with how many assessment centers that are out there, but we don't want to stop with just that. We want to really focus on how we improve diversion, how we also improve the services and things we do on the back end. We also have the Behavioral Health Juvenile Justice Initiative that we were able to expand from 11 counties to 13 counties that will span over 18 counties of service, because some of those have a joint approach to serving kids. So that's something that we're really excited about, and it does some of the things Mike and Jody had talked about earlier. It focuses on MST, FFT, and any really IHBT program or intervention. It works with kids on the front end, but with all these programs, they also serve kids that are pretty deeply involved in the justice system. BHAJ served over 50% of the kids they served last year were felony level offenders. Wow. They remained in the community in lieu of placement to CCF or DYS with a very high success rate. So I'm really proud of how we've expanded those initiatives and how our local court partners are always collaborating with us to think about how we expand. They help us create categories, and we need to listen to them. They know their communities, they know their kids, they know their families. Always proud of the growth and the relationships we have with all of our local juvenile courts.
Jody, how about you?
So we touched on community correctional facilities, but I have a lot of other areas within my bureau. All the females committed to the department is under my bureau: human trafficking, the problem sexual behavior, treatment certification process, detention centers, as Mike had talked about, Title IV-E, Medicaid, and any kind of alternative placement. So I have a lot of different entities that we have a lot of things going. So for human trafficking, Chelsea has done lots of national conferences and spoke at national conferences this year. Miranda, with our PSB treatment certification, she's new in that role, and she's really starting to build momentum and building relationships with those entities. Detention centers, we're still moving forward with our annual inspections, and Nicole has a very strong rapport with those detention directors, and they are quick to pick up and ask her for any help or questions, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback on, that partnership that she's really developed over the years. Medicaid is going to be the new thing that we have starting in October. It's because of the Consolidation Appropriation Act of 2023, we're allowed to give our youth Medicaid 30 days prior to the release, which would allow them to have targeted case management and then also some diagnostic and assessments, specific ones. So that's going to be a new rollout for us, and I'm really excited because it's going to make a huge impact on our kids and the ability to connect them with services quicker. So hopefully that will allow them to not have as much of a waiting list and be able to get into there faster. And then, as Mike mentioned, our step down process has really blossomed this year, and we've gotten more than we've ever had. And I think it's starting to pick up momentum. Kids are asking to do it. We have tons of kids asking to go into the trades.
For sure.
Yes, it's been a great thing, and it's been fun to watch. So we've just got a lot of things going on in our area that I'm very proud of. My staff just really digs in and does a great job with everything that they do.
New Now Next, that's how we consume the world in our news and information. You guys have kind of touched upon it in terms of what we're proud of, what we're building. Is there anything we missed that you're really looking forward to within DYS in the coming weeks, months, even years?
For me, it's the Medicaid process. We've been working with the Ohio Department of Medicaid for a long time now, and it's been a great partnership, building kind of what that looks like internally.
Mike, Corey, whoever wants to go next?
It's just continuing to build on the work. We've put a lot of the pieces together. We've connected a lot of the pieces, but this work is never done. This work is always evolving. I'm really excited to see many of these programs and many of these initiatives that we have invested a lot of time, money, and resources in. I'm really excited to see those grow over the course of the next year to 2 years. It's going to be incredible to see a program that was not there before the start of this year now in hopes to graduate 6 kids or 8 kids with trades programs in the next year. So the growth of BHJJ, it's not lost on us that we've had 11 programs for probably the last 10 years. Now we have 13, and that's because folks are sitting down and they're getting creative and they're pulling people in and bringing people to the table to find innovative and creative ways to do the work. So that's really what I'm looking forward to over the next year, 2 years, is really just to continue to innovate, continue to find those unique partnerships.
Corey, anything you want to add as we close it out?
Yeah, I just think simple things done well, right? Mm-hmm. We want to continue to do the solid work we're doing with our community partners, but we can always improve. And so we want to stay true to what our goals and missions are and keep moving forward to help youth and families in Ohio.
Jody, Mike, Corey, appreciate you all for your time very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Practice makes perfect, so does data and analytics. On our next episode, Deputy Director Dr. Jordan Argus and others will discuss that approach at DYS through the Best Practices Institute. They'll share what we're doing with data as an agency to develop evidence-based practices and initiatives to achieve the best outcomes for youth and staff. Be sure to subscribe to the Future in Focus podcast and let others know about it too. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or watch us on video right here on the Ohio DYS YouTube channel. Thanks for listening and watching. We look forward to having you with us for our journey through juvenile justice here at DYS.